Hey everyone, it's night 2 of Holy Week, and I am coming to share this devotion with you again tonight. I wanted to remind you all that it is actually not my original idea, but I am actually inspired by these for these devotions and use some of his words. John Piper from the book Love to the Uttermost. It is downloadable, and I've included the link below for you as well. So I want to kind of actually move backwards a bit tonight. We're going to start kind of backwards, and then we're going to move forward just a little bit. And I can find my notes here. So Jesus knew his purpose. One of the most shocking things for me about the entire life of Jesus is the whole time he knew what he was meant to do here on this earth. He knew his purpose. From the time when he was, I guess, before he could even speak, he knew what he was doing. He knew what his reason was here for being on earth. And so when he, yesterday, as we talked about him entering Jerusalem, and for Palm Sunday, he knew what he was doing there. He had a reason for going to Jerusalem. He knew Jerusalem was going to be the place of his death. He knew he was to die on a cross when Jerusalem, which for me, it kind of changed my perspective a little bit on that Palm Sunday, because that actually makes me think more about Christ's feelings on that day. So John Piper puts it really well, and I wanted to use his quote here. Jerusalem meant one thing for Jesus, certain death, nor was he under any illusion of a quick and heroic death. He predicted his death in Luke 18:31 through 33. I want to read that for you now. He did predict it a few times, and this is the one that John Piper kind of pointed out that really touched me as well. So Jesus predicts his death a third time. Jesus took the 12 aside and told them, "We are going up to Jerusalem, and everything that is written by the prophets about the Son of Man will be fulfilled. He will be delivered over to the Gentiles. They will mock him, insult him, and spit on him. They will flog him and kill him. On the third day, he will rise again." John Piper continues with that passage, and he says, when Jesus set his face to go to Jerusalem, he set his face to die. Remember, when you think of Jesus' resolution to die, that he had a nature like ours. He shrunk back from the pain like we do. He would have enjoyed marriage and children and grandchildren and a long life and esteem in the community. He had a mother and brothers and sisters. Guys, Christ was fully human, and that just amazes me time and time again. He has this physical body, he's hungry, he's tired, and you know what? He also feels anger and sadness. He was fully human as he's approaching Jerusalem. In John 1:14, he says, "The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. We have seen his glory, the glory of the one and only Son, who came from the Father, full of grace and truth." And I wanted to share that passage with you because in the Bible it tells us that Christ became flesh for us, to dwell among us, to feel the things that we feel, even in times that we're in right now. He understands that because he's felt that pain and that sadness and that anger at times. John Piper continues this image with us, and he says, to turn his back on all this and set his face towards vicious whipping and beating and spitting and mocking and crucifixion wasn't easy. In fact, it was hard. It was hard. So often I feel like we hear the Easter story told over and over again. It just kind of becomes this tradition that you do around Easter. But to take a moment and realize that it wasn't an easy road, that this was hard for him. Changes a few things. So let's jump back into the Bible a little bit, back to after Christ has entered Jerusalem on this amazing shouting of Hosanna on these palm branches, this wonderful greeting of praise and worship as he walks into Jerusalem. people realize that this is a king. He's here to save us. And they're so excited. And then the Bible states on Mark 11:15 through 19. On reaching Jerusalem, Jesus entered the temple courts and began driving out those who were buying and selling there. He overturned the tables of the money changers and the benches of those selling doves, and would not allow anyone to carry merchandise through the temple courts. And as he taught them, he said, "Is it not written, 'My house will be called a house of prayer for all nations'? But you have made it a den of robbers." The chief priests and the teachers of the law heard this and began looking for a way to kill him, for they feared him, because the whole crowd was amazed at his teaching. When evening came, Jesus and his disciples went out of the city. So this is a very jam-packed few verses that I really wanted to break down with you, because there's so many things in just this short amount of time. And what I first wanted to show you was in verses 15 and 16, Christ had his anger. He overturned tables. That's just such a crazy, I was going to try to go back for y'all, and I just totally missed it. We're skipping ahead. Sorry. Not very good at this just yet. So, sorry, verses 15 and 16, we were talking about how Jesus' anger is there. And he's overturning these tables. He's entered these courts in verse 15, and he begins turning these tables over. We truly see anger, that human anger, that emotion. But in verse 17, he gives the church a purpose. Those four walls that we're unable to attend right now, those four walls were to be called a house of prayer for all nations. And as we know later on, we learned the church even goes beyond those four walls. The church is you and me sitting here in video. We are the church, and we are called to be the prayer for all nations. What a huge calling. And you know what? Technology even makes this possible. We can reach all nations. I can be speaking to someone in another country from my own bedroom. In verse 18, if we keep unpacking this moment of him walking into Jerusalem, verse 18 says the chief priests wanted to kill him because they feared him. The chief priests and the teachers of the law heard this and began looking for a way to kill him. Immediately, these chief priests say, "This guy is not happening. We must find a way to kill him." But they can't. They fear him because the crowd is looking at him. The crowd is amazed by his teachings. This crowd that, as we know, will soon betray him is amazed at his teaching and is the one thing keeping the chief priests from killing him. John Piper continues in his devotion for the second day, and he says, if we were to look at Jesus' death merely as a result of betrayal's deceit and the Sanhedrin's envy and Pilate's spinelessness and the soldier's nails and spear, it might seem very involuntary, and the benefit of salvation that comes to us who believe might be viewed as God's way of making a virtue out of a necessity. But once you read Luke 9:15, all such thoughts just vanish. Jesus was not accidentally entangled in a web of injustice. The saving benefits of his death for sinners were not an afterthought. God planned it all out of infinite love to sinners like us, and he appointed a time. Jesus, who was the very embodiment of his Father's love for sinners, saw the time had come and set his faith to fulfill his mission to die in Jerusalem for our sake. Wow, right? I mean, all of this was planned out, and that plan was shared with Jesus. He knew what was going to be happening, and he still chooses to walk down that path to Jerusalem for us. Amazing. John 10:18 says, "No one takes it from me, but I lay it down of my own accord. I have authority to lay it down and authority to take it up again. This command I received from my Father. Christ knew what he was doing. He had authority from God to do what he was doing. And he does it because he loves us. This song that I wanted to share with you as we close in prayer and worship, I just wanted you to see his amazing grace that he truly has given us. God, thank you so much for this time that we had to come together and for giving me courage to be in front of everyone here and for being my words, for inspiring me and helping me reach someone today. I pray as we focus on the amazing grace you've given us and your willingness to send your son and your willingness for your son to continue down that path to Jerusalem. Thank you so much for your amazing love and grace. Amen.
Who shakes the whole with holy thunder and leaves us breathless in awe and wonder? The King of glory, the King above all kings. This is amazing grace. This is unfailing love. That you would take my place. That you would bear my cross. Your love. That set oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. Who brings our chaos to order? Who makes the orphan a son and daughter? The King of glory, the King of glory, who rules the nations with truth and justice, shines like the sun in all of its brilliance. The King of glory, the King above all kings. This is amazing grace. This is unfailing love. That you would take my place. That you would bear my cross. You laid down your life. That I would be set free. Oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy, worthy, oh, this is amazing grace. says I'm feeling young, that you would take my place, that you would take my cross. You laid down your life, that I would be set free. Oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me.